Hi, Ian from As Is. You've just finished your latest single, and now you need to promote it. So, what's your game plan? Today, we'll be talking about Daily Playlists, which is a website that allows you to pitch to Spotify playlist curators for free. And we'll be going over some of the pros and cons and kind of ways to go about looking into this service.
This is dailyplaylist.com, and this is the page that you'll go to when you pull up the website. Already, it's a little clunky, so what you want to do is you want to go into Spotify, copy your song URL, and paste it in here. From there, it will load into a page, and then you have to log in with your Spotify information. Once you're logged in, you'll be taken to this screen, and you just approve that this is actually the song I want to submit. From here, you'll go down through the genre filters, and you'll select all that apply. So for this song, Early Mornings, it's dubstep with maybe a hint of future bass. I'm going to select both just to see. You can also do one or the other. And how I would go about this, there's a couple ways. So you can see 333 playlists. You can sort it by followers, high to low, low to high, submissions, high to low, all that. So that's a good way to go through it. You might have better luck submitting to playlists that have a smaller number of followers. But some of these playlists will offer additional info. So you can see kind of what they're looking for, or some of them will specifically say, let's see if we can find one here. And some of them will say, submit music here at outlook.com, or something like that, some sort of submission email address. And I don't have a definitive answer for this, but to me, when generally it says a submission here, they don't want you to submit on this site. They want you to pitch them via email. And then from there, either one of two things will probably happen. They'll either say, okay, yeah, sure, you're in the playlist, but more likely they'll say, hey, give us, $20 donation or whatnot. And that's actually against the Spotify terms and services, at least as of recently. So generally on this site, I will avoid any of these playlists that have an email address to submit here. You can try that method. You can try submitting to them through here, or you can try emailing them. That's totally your call. But for me, since there's 333 options, that is probably not necessary. So on this site, you get 25 free credits, I think every 2 weeks. So each credit is a submission to a playlist. I've searched through the website a little bit and I found a playlist that it might be worth submitting to. So it's BassX MMXVAC. A decent sized number of followers. Anything that's going to be hundreds of songs, your song is probably not going to get played. So one other step I like to take before I submit to this is I want to see, one, is there a chance that this playlist is just completely fake and just be plugged with bots? Now, the reason why you want to check that out is you don't want your Spotify data and your numbers to be plugged with bots. One, that looks bad for anybody who's an A&R in the industry. And two, that just hurts your data from Spotify. If you're getting a bunch of 31-second plays or whatnot, then Spotify is going to deem your profile and your songs not really high quality. So there's might be times where you do get accidentally put on a playlist that you don't know if or not it's a bot playlist, but taking a few extra steps before you submit to places kind of will help eliminate that risk a little bit. You can't be 100% sure, but let me just show you kind of some of the ways I go about this. So I'm going to open up Spotify, and I'm going to try to find this playlist. So BassX, it's right here, which is great. Easy one to find. So 11,306 followers. There's a couple ways to kind of find some of these potential botted playlists. So let's check out some of their other playlists. Generally, if all their playlists have like the exact amount or very close amount of followers, which this one doesn't, which is a good sign, that will tell if it is botted. So a lot of these places, to my knowledge, will go ahead and buy, 1,000 or 5,000 fake followers for maybe 3 playlists to make it look like they actually have a legit playlist. So far, first step says no, this is legit. Let's see what their submit music here link is out to. Because if that's to daily playlists, that's a good sign. They're saying, hey, if you want to be on this playlist, you have to use this website, which is the website we're using. It is not daily playlists. It does take us to a Google Sheet submission form. And they're advertising about 75 to 100 plays a day, which for this size would make a decent amount of sense. If it was, 11,000 followers and they were offering you 5,000 plays or whatnot, over a week, that wouldn't make any sense. But that seems to add up. So let's just check a few more things here. One, you want to see, okay, this is a bass music playlist, dubstep music playlist. Are all these artists or most of these artists, that from what I can tell, in the genre? If there's a bunch of random artists that don't fit, one, that's just not a good playlist to be on, even if it is legit. You don't want to be on that because they're going to have very, very passive listeners. So what I do is I try to find an artist I've never heard of or don't know. Like for this instance, here we've got Slick Vic. So 732 monthly listeners. That's a good indicator. Anything under about a couple thousand, you can kind of see if they're on some botted playlists. Now, like I said, this isn't 100% accurate, but it does give you a good idea. So you can see here their first two playlists are discovered on as one of the ones that we're looking at, and then another one by the same company. If you look at where their listeners are from, and you add these up, so you get their 5 most listened locations. If it's like 20% ish, and maybe even a little under, maybe a little bit more, it's okay. I mean, generally, you can't say for sure, but generally, what you'll see here is these top 5 will be like 50, 60, 70. I've seen it even like 95% of their monthly listeners, which when you have, for instance, if you have like 4,000 monthly listeners, and you have, 3,800 of your top listeners and your top 5, it doesn't make sense. You would imagine if that number was that high, those people would be, in London, if there would be some people in some, neighboring, maybe 30 minutes outside of that city, they would share that music with their friends. So there should be other spread, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to do some quick math and add these up. So their top 5 is 157. So divide that by 732. We're looking at about 21%. So that's right on the cusp where I would say I'd be comfortable going about submitting there. I wouldn't say that would be necessarily a no submit there. I think that's probably fine for the most part. So yeah, after cross-referencing, and you can do this with maybe a few artists if you're unsure. So let's look at Shaw now. Yeah, so Shaw, this is a similar case, 776 monthly listeners, very close, and is on one of MMX VAX playlists. And pretty low monthly listeners, a pretty nice distribution. So I would say that this playlist looks pretty legit to me. So let's go back into daily playlist now, and let's go ahead and submit to them. So you'll click the box there, and then you can click continue. So you can see a message pops up. It tells you how many credits you have, and it looks like our credits will reset on the 25th of October. So as I was saying, I think it's every 2 weeks roughly where you get 25 more credits. So let's click continue. So what will happen too, here's one of the downsides of this website that I find, is there's gates. Now gates are good for the people who are running the gates. So what this site will get, let's see what you're going to get. So you're going to just follow their account and 3 of their playlists, which I think they only have 4 playlists. And then you save a song. So one thing to consider when you are submitting to these playlists, you might say, oh wow, this has 11,000 followers. Well, some of them are from gates from people like you or me using this service. And most likely, this isn't going to become one of our go-to playlists. No offense to this playlist, it might be a great playlist. But for most of us, if we're submitting to, 25 of these every month or whatnot, we're probably not going to be listening to all the playlists that we listen to regularly. So you might get a placement on this, and it might get you, a 50 to 100 streams or so, but it's not necessarily going to be, the full effect that a 11,000 following playlists that's grown through Spotify themselves or another third-party curator who's running purely ads to their playlist. So you saw that little whoop screen that something went wrong on Daily Playlist's end when I submitted. I went to go back and submit again. It says it's already been submitted. This has happened to me once before using this site. So that's something to double check on when you are going and submitting. So let's hop over to the dashboard now. And I'll show you some of the results from previous campaigns we've run. We haven't used this site a lot. So we started submitting on June 29th. And just to kind of see some of the downsides of this site, that's about 4 months from when I'm recording this video. We still have 5 pending, 3 declines, 1 approved. Same with Stop Them, submitted on the same day, 2 pending, 1 declined, 2 approved. If we jump ahead to Indigo, we submitted that in August 23rd, so about 2 months ago. 8 pending, 4 declined, 0 approved. Self-Destruct shortly after that, 7 pending, 3 declined, 0 approved. So this site isn't very active, I think, from a curator standpoint. And I will say this. I track our Spotify data fairly frequently, and I look for the top playlist of songs. I did not see any plays come in for these 3 playlists that these 2 songs got on. Now, it's not to say that these playlists aren't going to get you any plays for your songs, but it's something. I have a small sample size, but I'm skeptical. That being said, it is a free service, and it's worth trying and checking out. So when you want to submit again, you have to go back and do the whole process again. The nice thing with this service is you will know either if you got accepted or declined. They'll send you an email. If I recall correctly, they don't tell you which playlist it is, so if you really want to know, you're going to have to go back in, go to your dashboard, and check. So it does not save any of the data, so we're going to have to go back in and select again. Now I'm going to try to show you another scenario. I just showed you looking for playlists on Spotify and kind of how to vet those. Here's another scenario you might run into when you're doing some playlist vetting. So I found the playlist Base Party by Mike Destiny. So I'll go to that on Spotify. We're going to do the same method. We're going to try to find an artist that we haven't heard of and look through their top 5 as well as their top 5 cities. We found Young. We check out their About. You can see that Base Destiny isn't even on their top 5. And there's their city breakthrough and their monthly listeners. With that being said, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just might mean, hey, this playlist isn't going to get you a whole lot of plays, if any. So it's kind of a little bit harder to judge that. But since this platform is free, it's worth submitting to. That's something that you might find when you go through these playlists that they have little to no reach. That's okay. That's worth submitting to in my eyes. At least in that sense, it's most likely not generating fake streams, because if you look at this distribution, this is pretty good. And that's what you would want to see in a playlist. So you can assume that this isn't being pumped full of fake streams, because if it was, then you would probably see it on the top 5 with this amount of monthly listeners, and you would see these numbers be a little bit more skewed in a weird way that would kind of alert you. So that's just something to consider while you're submitting this. It might not be a really easy way to find out, hey, this playlist is in their top 5, and yes or no, it looks a little skeptical with these numbers that I'm seeing. So just remember that. Use both of these methods to kind of vet some of these playlists and to kind of ensure that you're going to be put on the best playlist for your music and for your profile.
So there you have it. That's Daily Playlist. And as you can see, it's kind of, no frill. It's very basic, but it's free, and it might help you get on a few Spotify playlists that you might not have access to otherwise. Now, like Label Radar, you might find this is a very small portion. Like if you have a pie chart, maybe this is 3 to 5% of your music marketing time and effort when you're promoting a new song. But it's a useful tool to have in the toolbox. It's not something that's probably going to make or break a release, but it's just a little bit more fuel and a little bit more options, and especially with that free price tag, it's worth being on there and trying every now and then. Maybe you do this after you do your Submit Hub and your Label Radar, and if you run any ads, this might be your last step along that process. But like I said, something to consider. Now, if you want to see our Label Radar videos, I'll link those over here. And if you really enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button. Let us know if you have any questions, and feel free to subscribe, and we'll keep putting out fun music marketing tips and tutorials just like this one. Have a great day.